Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sun Devil Stadium. I'm Chris Cadeau alongside Weston DeWitt and Braiden Bell, and this is BlazeRadioOnline.com's presentation of the Director's Cut. Well, gentlemen, absolute stinker tonight. ASU had an opportunity to knock off 3 ranked teams in one season. Unfortunately, USC comes in and spanks the Sun Devils by a score of 48-17. Braiden, on the rushing game side of the field for USC, who was the star?
It was the Rojo show. Ronald Jones Jr., he was fantastic for USC. Just shy of a career high, over 200 rushing yards, had 2 touchdown rushes, over 60 yards on the day. His burst, his athleticism, and his quickness was just too much for Arizona State all night long to handle.
Now, Rojo wasn't the only one running the football for USC. Combined, all the other people who got touches, that equaled about 130 yards on the ground as well. Weston, for ASU, the offensive line, they were getting pushed around all evening long. What were the other takeaways for ASU's offense?
Well, the other takeaways was discipline. 10 penalties for 99 yards for ASU. Todd Graham has preached often throughout his tenure, guys, about discipline on that offensive line and defense all around. So the discipline was not there tonight. The other thing was Kalen Ballage. He did not play much tonight. He only had 1 reception for 2 yards, did not run the football at all. Todd Graham did say in his postgame press conference that he was sick, but he was on the sideline getting a little bit of a talk, as we should say, from some of the coaches, and we'll see where that goes in the future. But discipline and no Kalen Ballage was the reason for those.
Defining wins and losses for programs. When you look at the opportunity ASU had tonight, this is a chance to really move forward in lots of pregame coverage all week, the hype surrounding this game. If you want to become Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, you have to rip off victories like tonight. With the loss, where do we go from here?
Well, they got punched in the mouth tonight. There's no fronting it. I think Todd Graham kind of said it in his press conference. He gave a lot of credit to USC, but where do you go from here? You pick up and try to, start and have a nice game against Colorado next week. You got to move on. I know that sounds cliche, but for Arizona State, a lot of things are still possible for this team. They're sitting at 4-4 right now. You've got 4 games to go. Try to win them all. If you do that, you're going to be in a bowl game, and you still got to look at this season with a pretty decent clip. You still beat Washington. You still beat Oregon. Obviously tonight, there's a sour taste in everyone's mouth if you're a Sun Devil fan right now, but there's still a lot to play for. And I see what you're saying. This could have been a program-defining win, if you will, like Washington. But the fact of the matter is, it didn't happen. It was an ugly game. Fans left by halftime. But you can't quit on it now. If you're an ASU player, you got to pick up the pieces and try to bounce back next week against Colorado. That's all you can do.
Weston, same question to you.
Well, in this game, the hype that was added to this game, guys, was exorbitant all around the state, not just in Arizona, but the national media as well was hyping this game up. Guys, this was for first place in the Pac-12 South. First thing that came out of my mouth in the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, the Pac-12 South is up for grabs in first place. Fans came in here tonight. The student section was packed. You couldn't find an empty spot in that student section, but they were out of there at halftime because they knew USC was just dominating. And one other thing, we got to give some credit to Sam Darnold. 266 yards passing. Now, Chris, the LA market, it can be excruciating on young men, especially in college, and he got completely eviscerated after his performance last week against Notre Dame. And for him to come out here tonight and shut these fans up and give USC such a commanding and dominating victory is such a huge confidence boost for him and for his USC Trojans team.
I'm glad you brought up the quarterback play. Real quick question to both of you.
Yeah.
Who were you more impressed with? You got a chance to see Jake Browning, and now you got to see Sam. Both absolutely amazing. Who were you most impressed with?
Well, I mean, based off their performances against the Sun Devils, it's clearly Sam Darnold. Both are great quarterbacks, like you said, but the thing Darnold does to me that's so impressive is the way he extends players. We've seen it so many times, but to see it in person, the way he can get outside of the pocket and find an open receiver downfield, it's almost impossible to cover.
The touchdown pass right here?
Yes. Think about Ben Roethlisberger. He always gets out of the pocket. that creates time for wide receivers to finally gain distance. And that's what we saw time after time tonight. And he also can run the ball. We saw a big run from Darnold. He's just so poised in the pocket and made some incredible throws here tonight.
I want to follow up on that. You mentioned his accuracy. He had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were to Vaughn's. I mean, we're standing right in the same spot where he threw probably his second, third touchdown. The accuracy. We didn't mention, he didn't say that in his description, but his accuracy. Sam Darnold's accuracy was pinpoint tonight, guys, and you got to give him the credit for that. I'm very anxious to see how he's going to finish out the season, and given the fact that he has expectations galore on his shoulders to be the #1 overall pick, and to come in here and throw the ball the way he did tonight was flawless.
Well, USC pulled themselves off the mat after getting smacked around by Notre Dame last week. They did it here in Tempe, unfortunately. Time for ASU to do the same thing next week against Colorado. This has been BlazeRadioOnline.com's presentation of the Director's Cut. For Braiden Bell, Weston DeWitt, I'm Chris Cadeau. Have a good evening.